politics in Britain at the moment? I think it's going according to plan. It's one thing I've noticed is there's a particular sort of consensus in Westminster. They don't like it when regular people end up with their own platforms. They don't like it when regular people come out of the woodwork and grow outside of their shadow in a way that they weren't expecting and they don't have any control over. And then when these people stand for office, you get what's happening to me. Not very pleasant, but one of the most important things I think that in the face of this kind of tyranny is not to back down. Hello, Milo. Would you like a microphone?
Hello. Sorry, I didn't want to be on time. I consider that very rude. Please carry on. Don't let me interrupt you.
Well, I was just saying that the political consensus from Westminster is if you are not following the rules of their dinner party, you do not get to engage in politics in Britain. I think this is unacceptable. I think that Westminster has too long been the hub, the sole hub of politics in this country. I think we need more devolution in this regard. I think we actually need to hear from regular people. And I'm guessing, given the number of people who have turned up today, you guys think that as well. Who feels like they are being represented by the Parliament at the moment? Not one hand up. Amazing. No one. I assume that the people who have come to see me voted to leave, as did 2/3 of the constituencies of this country, and 3/4 of our MPs want to remain. This means that the Parliament is not representative of the people, and that's the Parliament's sole job. The Parliament is also not sovereign, which is actually against our historic constitution, which is something that's being overwritten by the European Union. And so it's rather ironic when Gina Miller is standing on the principle of the sovereignty of Parliament when she is actively trying to give that sovereignty away. This is the state in which we find ourselves. And the political establishment don't really know what to do. They are panicking. And that's why they're lashing out. They're deplatforming us, they are smearing us, but we have to carry on. This can't last forever, and if we stand firm in the face of this, people will see that we do have principled opposition to what it is that they are trying to do to us. We will continue. All we want is a fair accounting, to use our free speech and to have a political dialogue. I don't know why they have such a problem with that. Well, actually I do know, but I won't go into it right now. But I think it shows that they have something very fragile to defend, a particular kind of moral order that they seek to impose on you. Because you have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, these people live in a world of words. They have never given a salute, they have never picked up a shovel, they have never laid a brick. These people believe that all virtue comes from that which is said. Now, I disagree. I believe actions speak louder than words. So when you have the politically correct over there, throwing things at us and trying to assault us to the point where I have to hire very, very trustworthy chaps to be security for me to just come and talk about the state of British politics, you can see the difference. I consider that to be morally reprehensible. I do not consider a joke that I made on Twitter to be particularly important. But which one do they focus on? They don't care that I've been attacked by Antifa multiple times. I was at King's College London with a Jewish objectivist called Yaron Brook. We are both limited government chaps. We do not want the government controlling our lives. We do not want any kind of arbitrary discrimination. And yet we were called Nazis and attacked by communists who assaulted 2 of the security guards at the university. And we and the audience had to physically fight off. No condemnation. Not covered in the media. They do not care. I make one joke about some bitch in Parliament. And you never hear the end of it. And I stand by that, and so does Jess, just so you know. She was very proud to call herself a bitch, so it's nice to know I won that argument. So I guess this is the kind of situation that I think we find ourselves in, where it's forming something of a popular revolt against the powers that be. And so I've decided to bring as many of the revolutionaries as I can with me, because we are free speech extremists, ladies and gentlemen. We are in a country that does not have free speech, does not want free speech, because after all, if you went to a polite dinner party with a bunch of lords and ladies, you wouldn't feel free to say exactly what you thought, would you? And that's the tenor that they want political life in this country to be like. Milo, how are you doing, my friend?
Thank you. Nice for you to invite me. This is a very familiar scenario for me, being drowned out by tuneless, talentless weirdos. As elevator music, as I came down the elevator in Marks and Spencer's, I think they were playing the same number. Now, as you can gather if you've listened to him for about 15 minutes or 15 seconds, he's a very nice, reasonable, normal person. I am not a nice, reasonable, normal person. I am an attention seeker. I am a little shit. And I do that for a living, and that means that I have some very great successes and some very public and humiliating failures. I'm like that band whose first album goes quadruple platinum and they spend the next 5 years wondering what the fuck they're gonna do now. Hasn't been easy the last 2 years, but I've been watching other people sort of pick up the mantle that I started on college campuses, and probably the one that made me take the most notice is him. Sort of started as a reasonable, centrist, liberal, whatever, and now, you know, just sounds like a Daily Mail reader to me, which in my world is a compliment. But him 2 years ago, he would have punched me. But what it really means is that the political consensus has shifted, not him. And reasonable, respectable, normal people, I may not be one of them, but I certainly understand them, I think, have found themselves parties like UKIP, which is a very remarkable state of affairs. I'm sort of terrified by the turn that things have taken in America. I expect it here. Hasn't really been free speech here for a really long time. We're used to having people tell us what we can say and what we can do and how we can think. It's still not a nice sight watching journalists crow and applaud the erosion of free speech. It's sort of chilling, but not completely unexpected.
I don't mean to interrupt, but we've got some lovely attention seekers who are
what is that?
And you can tell that by the smirks on their faces that they're not really very serious about what they're doing.
No, I know. What is it? Candy Fanny? What? Are you exhausted because you're vegan? You can't hold it up for very long, can you? Could a meat eater please help us so I can read it? No, it's nice. It's a lovely, glittery pink vagina. I don't know what they look like in real life, so I can't tell you if it's any good. Is it an accurate rendition of a vagina? So what trouble? You might have to turn it. You get so. I see. You see, you get so confused when you're vegetarian and vegan. You start to lose sense of direction. You see, they've done it, and then it's sort of fallen sideways, and then they didn't notice, and they wrote the words on anyway. That's so rude. She says it's a self-portrait. Very, very rude. You don't catch me saying things like that, being offensive in that way. It's a bit of a lackluster effort, ladies, isn't it? Never mind. Okay. Let's get back to it.
Let's get back to it. Oh, it's funny.
Hello. What does this say? Milo.
In English, it's fuck off.
Oh, in English it's fuck off. Well, thank you. Milo hates everyone, including himself. I think we all know that's not true. Many people I admire. Darth Vader. Skeletor. Margaret Thatcher. This one, I think, is pretty brave, and I'll tell you why. And then you can have the mic back on.
Oh, thank you very much.
Sorry. So you flew me over here. You want me to talk on?
I did, yeah, so you go ahead.
In America, you can normally find a hearing to respond. Although, last week I was banned from the evil empire conglomerate, leaving me with about one social network left. You can normally find someone to print your response to things. But over here, you can, in the course of an interview or a long YouTube live stream, crack a joke or make a remark. Was what he said about that Labour woman especially hysterical? Not really. Was it tasteless? Mildly, not in a way that bothered me. But for this to trigger a sort of campaign of hate where every comment he ever makes is used as evidence that he is some sort of morally reprehensible monster, contrasted with the reality of who he really is, isn't just funny, but it's scary. And it's especially scary to me that the founder of this party now cannot see has sort of signed up, you know, with the establishment. Is effectively wants to become the opposition party of the establishment rather than the mischievous insurgent that this party was always supposed to be. Well, this is now the face of mischief and insurgency, and UKIP is now fighting two parallel wars, both essential to the security and success and future of this country. One of them is Brexit, which is a given. But the other one is your right to be, do and say whatever the fuck you want without getting arrested because you called a police horse gay. Or because you taught your dog to do a salute from a dark period in history. Or any other totally harmless bit of tomfoolery. And people will say, oh well, you know, they might have got arrested but they dropped the case. They only drop these cases when sufficient publicity is paid to them. And we did a live stream the other day. I hope you look it up because it was a good conversation. He's completely wrong about plastic bags. Completely wrong about plastic bags. I don't want the government interfering in what...
It's actually in the UKIP manifesto.
Well, UKIP is completely wrong about plastic bags. Sorry. Everything else is good. I read the whole thing. Everything else is good. Plastic bags, not so much. But I hope you'll look up that conversation that we had, and in which he told me, I think the number was 1,500. 1,500 people in 2017 arrested for mean words on the internet. Like, and it's not an exaggeration to say that's literally any of us, anytime in jail. And you heard about 4 or 5 of those cases, and because the police was so embarrassed by the publicity, those 4 or 5 cases were either dropped or ultimately failed. But that leaves 1,445 people who either served custodial sentences or were fined, and that doesn't mean that they tell you how much you owe. That means the government reaches into your bank account and takes whatever money out that it thinks you owe them because you cracked a joke on the internet. Ridiculous. This is 1,445 people who had convictions for mean words on the internet. That is insane and terrifying. And that's why I'm here supporting him, and that's why you should support him too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Milo. I really appreciate that. So I would like to talk to some of our protesters, because I really want to know what's going on in their heads. Does anyone think they might be able to ask them if they'd like to come over and have a chat? Yeah, sir, if you would be so kind, I'd really appreciate it.
Carl.
There's a swim.
Yeah, so Carl.
Yes.
I'm Abhishek, I'm not a protester.
That's okay.
I just walked down the road and I saw UKIP was here. And I just have one question about this gentleman saying something about plastic. What is your opinion about plastic infiltration in the UK economy? And where do you stand? Where does UKIP stand in terms of eco-friendliness and environmental sustainability, such as banning plastic from the likes of M&S to the Sainsbury's and the Tesco's, as well as Greenpeace standing up for what people say in the plastic environment, why it should not be a part of the economy whatsoever? Because it's really, in the lack of a better word, it's fucking the environment, and we are not happy with it. We come from the same establishment. Where does UKIP stand?
Well, I don't want to speak for UKIP as a whole, because there are doubtless going to be people who disagree with me. But in regards to plastic bags in the specific, I'm actually completely in agreement that we should probably just get rid of them. I don't think the 5p tax does enough. I mean, I don't know about you guys, I'll just pay it. It's 5p, because I need a convenient plastic bag. It's the path of least resistance. But yeah, well, it sums up everyone, doesn't it? Of course it does. But I tell you what, sir, if you'd like to talk, we can talk. You don't have to just shout. You can come over and have a conversation with me.
There's no more effortless way through life than waiting for an hour for an opportunity to say, that sounds like you.
Okay. I'm just answering this gentleman's question, if that's okay. Thank you. But yeah, so I don't think the drive in UKIP would be to get rid of plastics entirely. I mean, honestly, I think that's probably an unfeasible goal. But what I think we should do is look at the direction in which we want to go and take small steps, as if you're climbing any mountain, you know, and you've got to take small steps. You should look at what's directly in front of you. And I think the first thing is, despite the principled opposition from my colleague here, I think that is actually a sensible thing to do. Because, I mean, there are alternatives.